You think you know your family. You believe love is forever. You trust that loyalty isn't a myth. But what if a single sentence shatters everything? You always know how to make the night special. That was meant for him. But it wasn't his night, not his name, not his love. Now, his world is unraveling. Suspicions turn into clues, clues into evidence, betrayal, deception, lies. But this is just the beginning. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If it's your first time here, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, as every like truly inspires me. Now, let's get started. For weeks, I had been eagerly awaiting this day. At last, the perfect chance to surprise Chloe on her birthday had arrived. The hours had dragged on, filled with mundane responsibilities that only seemed to stretch time further. Yet, the thought of the carefully chosen necklace hidden in my briefcase kept me going. I knew she would adore it, not just for its beauty, but for what it symbolized. My love, my devotion, my unwavering commitment to her. I was impatient to get home, to watch her face light up as she unwrapped it, to enjoy a quiet evening together. As I stepped inside, the warm murmur of conversation and soft laughter drifted from the kitchen. Chloe and our daughter, Hazel, were chatting, their voices wrapped in familiarity and ease. Everything felt as it should, comfortable, ordinary, right. I lingered near the entrance, savoring the moment before revealing myself. But then, I heard something that made me stop cold. "I missed you so much last night," Chloe's voice carried, laced with a playful affection. "You always know how to make an evening special." I stiffened. Her words hit me like a jolt, knocking the breath from my lungs. A ripple of confusion surged through me. Had I misunderstood? I strained to hear as Hazel responded, her tone hesitant. "What do you mean, Mom?" Chloe chuckled, lowering her voice conspiratorially. "Your friend Kellen. I never realized how incredible he was. He surprised me in ways I never expected, and I loved every moment." My stomach twisted violently. The anticipation of coming home, the excitement of giving Chloe her gift, it all dissolved, replaced by a sickening weight in my chest. Who was Kellen? And why did she sound so intimate? My fingers tightened around the doorknob, my knuckles turning white as panic surged through me. My mind scrambled for explanations, for something, anything, that would make this make sense. But before I could steady myself, Hazel spoke again, her words driving a dagger straight through me. "I knew you'd like him, Mom. He's perfect for you. Not like Dad. He actually listens." The room spun. Every word sliced deeper, leaving me reeling. Was this a cruel misunderstanding? Had I been blind to something happening right under my nose? The confidence I had always placed in Chloe's love, in our marriage, in our family, it all felt like an illusion, unraveling before my eyes. I backed away, retreating into the dimly lit living room, my pulse hammering in my ears. This wasn't just doubt creeping in. This was real. My world wasn't just shifting, it was collapsing. I knew I couldn't confront her, not yet. My emotions were a storm, but without proof, I had nothing to stand on. As the night stretched on and Chloe slept soundly beside me, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The necklace, once a token of love, now felt like a cruel joke. Tomorrow, I vowed, tomorrow I would uncover the truth. In the days that followed, I watched, I listened, I paid attention to every exchange, every glance, every unexplained absence. And with each passing moment, the unease within me grew. The puzzle pieces were there. I just had to put them together. One evening, long after Chloe had gone to bed, I found myself alone in the kitchen. Her phone rested on the counter, its screen glowing softly in the dim light. I hesitated, my fingers hovering above it. Did I truly want to know? The answer was already there, lurking in my gut. I had to see it for myself. With a deep breath, I unlocked her phone and scrolled through her messages, hoping, praying, that I was wrong. But the truth was undeniable. A string of messages from someone named Kellen. Last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you. I need to see you again soon. Each word was another wound, cutting deeper than I thought possible. I had feared betrayal, but seeing it spelled out in front of me was more than I was prepared for. This wasn't just an impulse or a fleeting mistake. This had been happening for months. Chloe had been lying to me, sneaking behind my back, building a connection I never even saw coming. A cold fury settled over me. I wouldn't let this slide. I captured screenshots, preserving the evidence. There would be no room for denial. She couldn't twist her way out of this. The next morning, I sought out Hazel. She was at her desk, lost in her studies when I knocked softly on the door. She looked up, startled, a flicker of apprehension flashing across her face. "Dad? What's wrong?" she asked cautiously. I exhaled slowly, trying to steady myself. "We need to talk. About your mom." The tension in the room thickened instantly. Hazel shut her laptop, her expression shifting as unease crept into her features. "Hazel, I found something," I continued, pulling out my phone and turning the screen toward her. "Do you want to explain this?" Her eyes widened as she stared at the messages, horror flickering across her face. For the first time since this nightmare began, she had nothing to say. She took an uneasy step backward, her voice trembling. "Dad, I never wanted you to find out like this," she stammered, struggling to get the words out. "I didn't know what else to do. Mom, she was lonely, and Kellen, he's just a friend." A sharp exhale escaped me, frustration tightening my chest. "A friend?" My voice sharpened, disbelief cutting through each syllable. "You thought this would make her happy? Watching her betray me? That's how you decided to help?" Hazel's eyes glistened, tears threatening to fall. "I didn't know how to fix it, Dad. I thought if I just stayed quiet, it would somehow sort itself out. But it didn't." I stood there, torn between anger and sorrow. She wasn't to blame, not really. She was just a child, caught between two worlds crumbling around her, trying to protect her mother while helplessly witnessing our family unravel. I forced myself to steady my breathing, softening my tone. "Hazel, I know you were only trying to do the right thing, but we can't ignore this anymore. We have to face it. Together. We need to talk to your mother." She gave a small, broken nod, tears finally spilling down her cheeks. "I'm sorry, Dad. I never wanted any of this." "I know, sweetheart," I murmured, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "I know." That evening, when Chloe walked through the door, the tension in the room was thick enough to cut. She picked up on it instantly, her gaze darting between Hazel and me, concern clouding her face. "What's going on?" she asked, setting her bag down carefully. My voice was measured, but the hurt behind it was unmistakable. "We need to talk." I held out my phone. "Do you want to explain this?" Chloe's face went pale as she took the device. Her fingers trembled as she scrolled through the messages, her expression growing more stricken with each passing second. When she finally met my eyes, she looked desperate. "Jacob, it's not what you think," she said, her voice thin and unsteady. A bitter laugh escaped me, cold and humorless. "Then tell me, Chloe, who is Kellen?" She hesitated, glancing at Hazel, whose guilt was written all over her face. Then Chloe let out a slow, defeated breath, her shoulders sagging. "It's complicated," she whispered. "He's just a friend." I clenched my jaw. "A friend? That's all you have to say?" Her voice barely carried. "I made a mistake. I never meant for it to go this far. I never wanted to hurt you." "But you did," I said, colder than I had intended. "And now, we have to deal with it." The silence that followed felt suffocating. Chloe's eyes shimmered with unspoken words, but I wasn't ready to hear them. The betrayal cut too deep. I needed space. "I need time to think," I finally said, my voice raw with emotion. "I'll be staying at David's for a while." Chloe gave a small, almost imperceptible nod, unable to meet my gaze. As I turned to leave, Hazel reached for my hand, her voice breaking. "I'm sorry, Dad. I never wanted this." I squeezed her hand gently. "I know, sweetheart. We'll get through this. Together." The days that followed blurred into a haze of pain, anger, and confusion. David's house became my refuge, a place to process the wreckage of my marriage in solitude. He had been my closest friend for years, and now, more than ever, he stood by me. "You don't have to make any decisions right now," David assured me. "Just breathe. When you're ready, you'll figure it out." His words made sense, but they did nothing to quiet the storm inside me. Chloe had shattered my trust in the worst possible way, and I couldn't simply let it slide. The more I thought about her betrayal, the more the need for accountability gnawed at me. This wasn't just about confronting her. It was about making her understand the weight of what she had done. I had proof now. Screenshots. Evidence. This wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. It was about consequences. She couldn't just pretend none of this had happened. One evening, as I sat in David's dimly lit living room, lost in thought, my phone buzzed. Chloe. My stomach twisted. I had been expecting this call. I had been waiting for it. I picked up, my voice detached and cold. "Chloe." She hesitated for a moment before speaking, her tone fragile. "Jacob, I know you need time, but we have to talk." I said nothing, waiting. "I'm sorry for everything," she continued, her voice breaking. "I never wanted to hurt you." Her words barely registered. The damage had already been done. No apology could erase it. And yet, despite the wall I had built around myself, something sharp and painful still pierced through. Once, I had loved her. Once, I had trusted her completely. And now, here we were. "Chloe," I said, my voice firm, unwavering. "We need to meet. I'm done waiting. It's time you understand what this is going to cost you." I could hear the hesitation in her voice when she finally agreed to meet. The next morning, I returned to the house that had once been the heart of our family. As I stepped inside, whatever warmth had once filled the space had vanished, replaced by an unsettling emptiness. Chloe stood in the kitchen, nervously shifting objects on the counter, her fingers fidgeting as if trying to distract herself. When our eyes met, a flicker of vulnerability crossed her face, fleeting but unmistakable. "Jacob, I'm so sorry," she started, her voice unsteady. I cut her off with a sharp gesture. "That time has passed," I said, my words cold and final. "Now, you live with what you've done." Her face drained of color, and she said nothing as I walked past her, making my way to the living room, where I had already placed a folder filled with meticulously compiled documents. Inside lay the divorce papers, alongside undeniable proof of her affair with Kellen. I had imagined this confrontation countless times, ensuring she would be forced to face the full weight of her betrayal. "Sit down, Chloe," I ordered, my tone devoid of emotion. "We need to discuss a few things." She hesitated, fear flashing across her features before she obeyed, her hands clenched tightly in her lap. I drew in a steady breath, finally looking at her after days of avoidance. This was no longer about anger. It was about reclaiming control over my future, my life, and the stability of our family. "I've had time to think," I said. For a while, I convinced myself this wasn't real, that somehow we'd find a way past it. But I understand now. That's not possible. I can't move on without knowing that you fully comprehend what you've thrown away. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "Jacob, please. We can fix this." "No," I answered firmly, meeting her gaze without wavering. "You made a choice. Now you face the consequences." I pushed the papers across the table toward her. She inhaled sharply, her eyes locked onto the documents, the reality of the situation sinking in. Tears welled up, her hands trembling as she lifted the pages. "Jacob, this isn't real. It can't be happening," she murmured, shaking her head as if denial could change the truth. "I never meant for it to go this far." "I know," I said, my voice steady, my resolve unshaken. "But it did. And now, we deal with it." She reached for my hand, her expression pleading, but I withdrew without hesitation. "There's nothing left to salvage," I stated. "You sealed this fate yourself." The air between us grew thick, oppressive. I saw the realization dawn in her eyes. This wasn't a fight, and I wasn't here to debate. She had anticipated arguments, bargaining, maybe even fury. What she hadn't prepared for was my absolute certainty. Chloe sat motionless, gripping the papers as her shoulders slumped under the weight of what she had done. I rose to my feet and headed for the door. "We'll finalize everything soon," I said without looking back. "But as of now, this is over." I stepped outside, leaving behind her whispered pleas, the devastation in her eyes, and the wreckage of what had once been our marriage. I didn't turn back. As I drove away, the magnitude of the moment settled over me. It was finished. The days that followed blurred together. I stayed with David, sorting through the chaos of emotions and decisions that lay ahead. The legal proceedings moved quickly, accelerated by the irrefutable evidence I had gathered. Chloe's betrayal was laid bare, and there was no undoing what had already begun. But my work wasn't done. I had always believed in fairness, but this was beyond that. Chloe had taken something from me, and I was determined that she fully grasp the price of her choices. I consulted a lawyer to finalize custody arrangements for Hazel. My priority was ensuring she remained shielded from the fallout of her mother's actions. Financial settlements were arranged with precision. Chloe wouldn't walk away unscathed. But true justice, the kind that gnawed at me since the night I overheard her hushed conversation with Hazel, wouldn't be delivered by the courts alone. It would come from the unraveling of the life she had so carefully constructed. I hired a private investigator to dig deeper into Kellen. What I discovered went far beyond infidelity. Kellen wasn't just a casual mistake. He was deeply entangled in several business ventures Chloe had known about for months. The investigator traced a web of financial dealings, some of which edged dangerously close to criminal activity. Everything was aligning. With this information in hand, I made the necessary moves, ensuring Kellen's business practices would soon come under intense scrutiny. He wouldn't escape the consequences either. Chloe had assumed her betrayal would remain private, that she could quietly piece together her life once the dust settled. She was wrong. The final strike came when a journalist reached out, having caught wind of the story. They were prepared to expose everything, her affair, her involvement in Kellen's dealings, and the fallout that followed. The article would make national headlines. I didn't hesitate. When the scandal broke, Chloe's world disintegrated. Friends vanished. Professional connections severed ties. The pristine image she had carefully maintained crumbled before her eyes. I ensured that every detail came to light, including her association with Kellen's questionable activities. She had shattered our marriage, and now she was left to watch as everything she had valued slipped through her fingers. There was no escaping it. The months crawled by, and at last, the divorce was finalized. The court awarded me full custody of Hazel, leaving Chloe with no choice but to accept the conditions set forth in the agreement. In the end, she lost everything: her marriage, her reputation, even the family she once had. Her betrayal had inflicted wounds on more than just me, but I was the one left to gather the shattered pieces and forge a new path. Hazel and I built a life from the ruins, a life still touched by sorrow, yet carrying the quiet promise of a new beginning. David remained a constant, offering his support in the moments I struggled the most. As the storm of the past finally began to settle, I realized the real battle wasn't just about regaining Hazel's trust, but about rediscovering my own belief in myself. The experience had forced me to confront painful truths about deception, about trust, and about the selfish extremes people will go to in order to protect themselves. But it also taught me that while vengeance might feel gratifying in the short term, it could never be the foundation of a future. True healing would only come from moving forward, from reclaiming my own life and shaping the future I envisioned. As I stood staring into the distance, one thing became unmistakably clear. I refused to be shackled by the past any longer. It was time to write my own story, on my own terms. This story has come to an end. Lies cut deeper than the truth, no matter how painful it is. But the worst part isn't the act of deception itself. It's how easily it becomes a way of life. Every action has consequences. A broken heart can be mended, but the cracks will always remain. True love is built on honesty, respect, and loyalty. Without these, it's not love. It's just an illusion. Be honest. With yourself, with your loved ones, with those who trust you with the most precious thing, their heart. What's your opinion? Please tell me which city and country you watched this video from, and I'll say goodbye to you until the next video. Goodbye.